Hello, I'm Yvonne Barron and I'm a violin teacher at Doncaster Music Service. In today's video tutorial, I'm going to be taking a look at one of the ABRSM Grade 2 pieces from the 2020 to 2023 exam syllabus. And that piece is Menuet in G by Christian Petzold and is A2 in your violin exam pieces book. Johann Sebastian Bach, a Baroque composer, gave his wife, Anna Magdalena, two handwritten little keyboard books. The first book consisted mostly of pieces composed by Bach himself, but the second book from 1725 was a collection of pieces mostly by other composers for Anna to play to her children or just for her enjoyment. One of the pieces in this book was the Menuet in G, composed by the German composer and organist Christian Petzold. A menuet, by the way, was a dance which was popular in the 18th century. So I'd now like to play you the piece. I'd like you to think as I play about the time signature. In other words, about how many beats there are in every bar, because this is something that you have to do for your oral test, so it's a really good idea to get into the habit of recognising features such as time signatures now as you play. Think also about the tempo. Is it fast or is it slow? Another element I'd like you to listen out for is the articulation and whether notes are played smoothly, so legato, or whether they're short and detached. In other words, they're played staccato. So I asked you to think about the time signature and the tempo. I hope you recognised it was in 3/4 time and had a really lively feel to it. So let's go through the piece in a little bit more detail now so that we can explore some of the features and work through any of the tricky areas that we might come across. You'll notice by looking at your music that it's actually written in 2 halves, with each half being repeated, although in the exam you shouldn't play these repeats. There's 1 F sharp in the key signature, which means that in this piece we're playing in the key of G major. If you look through the piece, you'll probably notice that a lot of bars are made up of scale patterns. So I suggest a really good starting point here would be to practice your G major scale. Remember, this is a scale that you need to be able to play for your grade 2 exam also. So let's have a go at playing it slowly. Remember, on the A and the E strings, we play a C natural and a G natural. So do keep your second fingers pulled back next to your first ones. And remember, there's no third finger on the E string. So let's have a go at playing our G major scale. The first half of the Menuet is based entirely around the G major scale. Notice the scale patterns in bars 1. Let me just play you that one so you get an idea. So the last 4 notes in the first bar, G major scale. In bar 3, again the last 4 notes and leading into the next note in the next bar. They're all part of the G major scale ascending. Now in bar 5 and 6, we have some of the G major scale, but descending, coming down. Have a listen to that. And in bar 6, and in bar 7, we've actually got a bit of the G major scale going up and almost like an arpeggio on the last 2 notes in that bar. It sounds like this. Bars 9 to 16 are almost the same as the first 8 bars, but there are changes in the dynamics and the pitch is different in bar 15, so do be careful there. When you've got a pattern of 4 quavers, for example in bar 1, can you see how the first 2 quavers in that group are slurred together? So from the first note in bar 1, that's on a down bow. The next 2 are on an up bow. Down, up. So the bowing, whenever you get a group of 4 quavers together, apart from bar 28, which is different, the bowing will always be in those other bars, up, up, down, up. So I asked you to think about the articulation earlier. Did you notice the use of staccato notes, such as in bar 2? There are lots of these in this piece, so do watch out for those. So if we look at bar 2, the bowing there is going to be down, up, up. So on the 2 up bows, you almost have to stop your bow on the string before pushing it again. So let me play that for you. Do you see how those staccato notes happen? Down, up, stop, stop. And that's how those little dotted notes, those staccato notes, are going to be articulated in this piece. Now, there are a number of ways you could practice this opening melody. First, I suggest that you try playing what's actually written, and then, if you're struggling, break it down into smaller chunks. You might find that it's a little bit tricky crossing the string from the A to the D string, such as in the very first bar. So you could practice that. You could even do exercises such as A to D, and then first fingers, second fingers, until you get to your third finger. You might also just pick out the quavers, the groups of quavers that are in that first half, and practice those first. Now, there's no introduction in this piece, so you will need to bring in the pianist on the day of your exam. Set the tempo in your head and count a really steady 1, 2, 3. On 3, you're going to lift your violin up, and then you're going to play as you count 1 again in the next bar. Let me show you what I mean. So if I count it out loud, you'll get an idea of how I would bring in my pianist. 1, 2, 3. And do you see how on 1 again, I was ready to play? I'll do that again for you. 1, 2, 3. It does feel strange, but again, it's something that you need to practice and get used to, because you will have pieces where there is no introduction and you're in first or you're in together with the pianist. So it's a really good idea to practice that at home. In the third bar of your first half, there's a high E on the first crotchet beat of that bar. Now, I'd like to suggest here that you play this with the 4th finger on your A string, because you haven't really got time to move from your G in the bar before to an open E. So have a go at that. As I mentioned earlier, bars 9 to 16 are almost the same as the opening 8 bars, but the pitch changes in bar 15. So I'm going to play you from bar 7, and you can have a listen to see how that changes in bar 15 later on. So this is bar 7. And then this is bar 15. So those two bars are quite different, so do make sure you don't get them muddled up. Although the rhythm's the same, the pitch is different. The piece starts mezzo forte for the first 8 bars, but in bar 9, where the tune comes back again, you're going to play forte, you're going to play nice and loud. Watch out in bar 13 where you have a diminuendo, and this is a long diminuendo going all the way to the end of bar 16 where you're playing piano. The second half starts with a 4th finger B on the E string. Again, break down your practicing here. So play, for example, the first note in every bar here. Or perhaps play the first of the 3 of the 4 quavers. And in the next bar, and bar 19. And then you might want to practice the last 2 quavers in those bars. Until you're really confident and you can run those 3 bars together. Bar 21 has an ascending scale run, but watch out for the C sharp here and the crescendo. There's G natural in the next bar and C sharp again in bar 23, where we also have a diminuendo over those last 2 staccato crotchets in that bar. In bar 25, we start piano. Watch the rhythm there, it's a little bit different to what we've had before. You could count 1, 2 and 3, 1, 2 and 3. Did you notice that I played a 4th finger there as well on that E? You haven't really got time to get from the G in bar 25 to an open E and back again without catching your A string in the middle. So I like to play from the G in bar 25, that's the last crotchet, a 4th finger to start the note in the next bar. Bar 27, be careful because you've got a C natural again. And in bar 29, we've got what's almost like a D major scale, and we have a big crescendo there as well. In bar 31, we have a diminuendo down to the final dotted minim note, the G, which I suggest should be played about piano. Make sure on the day you give it its full 3 beats, and you might like to slow the tempo down in the 2 crotchets that go before that as well. So now we've had a look through the menuet, let's play it together from the beginning. I'm going to slow down the tempo a little bit now, but don't forget, if you want to play it at the suggested metronome speed at 104, then you can rewind the video back to the beginning and play with me again there. Well, I hope you enjoyed learning Menuet in G with me. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.